Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case, a very serious to focus video analysing the injuries sustained to Noah, yes or no, and what types in regard to the side-by-side rollover and how the story, the event of it taking place, has been told by varying different people, from those that were actually at the party and others who weren't, from the likes of what Robyn Smith has had to say, Elisha Lee, Kaden's mom, Kaden Pressy himself, Carter Combs, Stephanie Millan, Stevie Howard, etc. I'm going to be combining all of that together today so you can see it for yourself and what they had to say when describing the side-by-side rollover. It's quite important because it's part of the timeline. Whilst it did happen early on, it's also about understanding the condition and state of mind Noah Presgrove was in, so then following up with the shower situation, and also questioning as we go along what is true and what's not. Because in some ways you could argue there are some discrepancies. Now, the order of how we'll do it today as to who we'll look at first, that does not matter. I think we'll probably look at with Robyn first of all, then Elisha, and so on. But I do need to add in Kaden Pressy's point of view before we go any further, because I don't have any screenshots on what he said. There is audio, but as you know, with partners in true crime and copyright, they get a little bit petty. So to be protective of my channel, I'm not going to be using any audio, but I do remember what Kaden Pressy was referring to, and I'm sure most of you do as well. And if not, somewhere here or there, you'll be able to check the Partners in True Crime interviews and what Kaden Pressy had to say when describing the bits and bobs, and if not that, the police interview. I also want to say though, welcome to those that are watching this live premiere. Share your live reactions and thoughts in the chat box located on the right hand side of the screen. And if you got any additional points or questions after watching this video, if you're watching on catch up, drop a comment down below under the video, because it will help with spreading awareness, putting the video out there, more people get to see it, and who knows if questions can be answered below and new ideas come about. So just take that into mind. And if you do want to support the channel, in the comment section, pinned message at the top will be by me with the PayPal link. And if you simply want to catch up on recent coverage by me, you'll find the full playlist on this case, top right corner of the screen where the I symbol is. In terms of what we've looked at in recent time, there's been an order, a process, and a focus. The same happens today, but a different theme and topic revisiting, because there is some information and details that I have never seen before. So that'll be quite interesting, done in a raw way. Read, analyse, compare, contrast, and add on. And maybe for some of you, it might be the first time you've seen some of these details. So to start off with Kaden Pressy. Kaden Pressy was not awake from what he said at the time of the side-by-side rollover. At a later point, maybe a different day, a person who may have been from the party, Kaden did not give the person's name, showed Kaden a photo, could be interpreted as a screenshot. As Kaden said, a photo from a video, so likely a screenshot, with a timestamp as well, 2:40 in the morning. Implying what Kaden's getting at is that's the time of when the side-by-side rollover occurred at, 2:40 in the morning of Monday. How believable is that? Well, of course, we've questioned it since, because at 2:42, and that's been backed up by the call log of Elisha, when Elisha called Kaden and Kaden woke up at 2:42 amidst the news of Georgia on the way back home, whilst Kaden, awake, looking about, sees Noah Presgrove with Jack, with Jasmine, near a beer pong table. How true is that? Well, it's Kaden's words, Kaden's description. We don't see any hard evidence of it, any photos or screenshots at that time. So you just have to trust what Kaden says with his words. Yes, his time stamp about 2:42 is true and can be independently backed up with Elisha's call log from the looks of it, yes, but that's about it. Whereas Kaden and things have been said by him and there's been discrepancies and cracks forming, you could argue and say, how true is it that based off that time then, and if the 2:40, 2 minutes earlier, is true amidst the after effects of the side-by-side rollover, how quick could Noah have got from outside, round the back, the pasture, into the house, maybe injured, dusting it off like it's nothing, no urgency for a wash, and casually standing by Jack and Jasmine then? How possible is that? Does it all follow the correct order based off the tight time frame window? Or is it more so one thing's right, the other thing's wrong, a lie, a mistake made? It does make you wonder. You can leave your thoughts down below. But these are the discussions which have come about over time with what Kaden had said. 2:40, side by side, after effect. Noah on the ground, person recording, runs or walks up to him, kind of laughing. Noah's got a bloodied nose injury. Is that consistent with what other people have said? Nope. Other people have said Noah had a busted lip. And blood lip, blood on nose, does it really matter? One or the other, it's close to each other on the body. Well, it does, because one discrepancy can total and equal another, and another. We've seen it on a bigger scale. This is a smaller scale. And in the order of what we've seen it in, the bigger scale stuff, there's been discrepancies. So likely the smaller scale stuff, where the memory may not be as tight or focused, more loose, even more likely to be, incorrect or not quite gelling with what other people have said. But the importance around Noah being injured, not to do whether it leads to the death directly or, the fatality in the moment, but just in regard to the injury itself, non-fatal, but how did other people about react? Did they care? Did they appear worried? Did they bat an eyelid? Was it of that high importance or not? Because just being dirty, yeah, you need washing down. But if you're dirty and injured, if you did have any open cuts, wounds or whatnot, there should be more of an urgency to get you washed and cleaned up so there's no infection, so you can be treated as soon as possible. Now, in the background, online, on Facebook, typical, to do with rumours of a nurse calling around to check in on Noah. Not seen any hard evidence of that. Possible bollocks. Thought I'd just slip that in there. So with what Kaden was describing, it was arguably limited. You'd expect that because he was not a witness to it. However, there's been some counterpoints in the past, either by Stevie Howard or some other people who have mentioned, and it may have been acknowledged in one of the interviews, at least with Kaden, about the claims being made of Kaden being present, helping to flip or roll over the side-by-side with his knee brace on. And then the counterpoints by, maybe it was Elisha or somebody else close to Kaden, saying it's not possible, it just wouldn't happen. Kaden wasn't that mobile. Kaden recovering from surgery, he wouldn't be able to do much, especially with his leg. You wouldn't risk the recovery, he wouldn't go against it. So he can't be in two places at once. He wouldn't do that sort of thing, but others are claiming he did. Now, if there aren't any screenshots, any video footage, any proof of it, or just a side-by-side in general, if and when it can be released in the future, we'll do an analysis. But I just wanted to put it out there right now and see what other people have to say, whether you believe in it or not, whether you've seen it or not. You can leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. So, with that being in mind, and with what Kaden Pressy has said, busted or bloodied nose occurring at 2:40, a person walking up to Noah who came on the ground, post rollover, and that's pretty much it. How does that compare or contrast to what others have said? Well, without further ado, let's transition on over. The first screenshot is actually from a post and thread on Unsolved Murders, which is just a general Reddit page, and it can incorporate the cases like Noah Presgrove. Unsolved Murders, I think there was a section of it dedicated to Dylan Rounds in the past. So it's interesting that someone like Professional Feed, who is also known as Robyn Smith, one of Noah Presgrove's aunts, was active on Reddit at some point in the past. I mean, this screenshot the comment was 4 months ago, but maybe it's even longer than that, depending on when the actual screenshot was taken. Cause of death revealed for Noah Presgrove. So this would have been around the time of 2024. Was it May or so when the autopsy was released? And the responses by people on here, and I'll zoom in just so you can see it a little bit clearer. Hang On says, they also said it wasn't the cause of death. He was involved in an ATV accident, side-by-side rollover, hours before. So the head injuries are not surprising. What's more perplexing is really the state in which he was found and why a hit and run was immediately ruled out. I'm not saying that's what caused it, but I'm curious about how bad the actual side-by-side rollover accident was, as it seemed like everyone from the party is downplaying it. But is everyone from the party downplaying it, or is it just a matter of consistency that despite not all partygoers being in line about other stuff and like Kaden Pressy against everyone, that they all come to some kind of conclusion that that rollover was not a fatality? Because what I've seen in general, there seems to be a consensus by all the key people that it was not a fatality. That rollover was not the be-all and end-all of Noah's death, but the ones that have been pushing it over time are the ones on Facebook. The ones on Facebook that were pushing the rollover as a cover-up, which was the death, dragging Noah's lifeless body into the building, scraping by any other partygoers and witnesses, trying to sneak about, going into the shower, washing Noah, holding him upright, recording it to make it seem like he's still alive, a lifeless corpse standing, and then dispose of him later. That's what happened. People have the cheek to criticize my theories, my ideas, my holistic thinking, to acknowledge other people's points of views, and then you've got claims like that. And people on Facebook wording it as a fact as well in reckless ways. Not a good look, was it? But I thought I'd just add that in because it reminded me. Now, Robyn Smith at the time said they swear that it was just tipped on its side, that Noah wasn't hurt. Jasmine Millan said one of the Texas boys got a busted lip, but that's it. She also told me that when she showered him, as in Noah, he did not have any head injuries, no scrapes, marks, nothing. But then 2 of the kids told us different stories about who showered him. So I have no clue who is lying. Just goes to show that Robyn Smith, even in the past, with party goers, poor communication, different stories, a bit all over the place. Ever since, what's been the consistent story? Like you had Jasmine Millan assisting Noah, and then you had Carter Combs. But they did not physically touch or shower Noah in that way, wash him. They simply held him up in case he fell, and that was mainly it, at least from what we've been told. In terms of 2 of the kids told us different stories. I don't know who those people are which Robyn's referring to. If anyone can guess down below, feel free to do. Interesting how Robyn says one of the Texas boys got a busted lip. The reason why that's very important is because for so long I was questioning who were the passengers. Who could they be? Besides Noah being the driver, who were the 5 to 6 passengers, as Jack Newton suggested without any names or references made? And it was only in recent time where Robyn mentioned about 5 Texas boys were cleared from the case, and the number 5 linked with the number 5, what Jack said, so I put 1 and 1 together and thought maybe they're the type of people that were the passengers of the rollover. And 4 months ago, if not longer, Robyn Smith actually made a reference to one of the Texas boys getting a busted lip. It sounds kind of self-explanatory that to get a busted lip probably ties in line with the rollover, probably meaning that they're one of the passengers. And if one Texas boy is the passenger, then I'm sure 4 or 5 others could be as well. The reason why this is important is because it's an old comment, and I've been asking questions for some time. I had no clue about this. If I knew about this much earlier on, if it came up, it could have answered things much quicker. But take in mind, it's a little abstract. It's from Unsolved Murders, a different Reddit page, not the norm, like a separate post. You just wouldn't expect to come across it probably. So you let me know your thoughts down below in regard to what you think about this and the stories changing. Hang on, adds on. I responded to another one of your comments with an article describing what an expert forensic pathologist believes happened. It includes having internal bleeding, which makes sense after an ATV accident, especially after drinking. He might not have really noticed any injuries to himself initially. I mean, there was a time where I suggested as a theory that any long-term injuries, as in damage within, unknown at the time, knock-on effects later, Noah walks away, and then something happens to him. It catches up. Well, even if that was the case, there's additional brutal injuries sustained would have to be caused by another thing on top. But, that's what Robyn Smith had said in the past. If we move on to here, what's this? Who's that? Something Howard? I don't know who that other person is up there. Don't quite show the name. Something Howard responding to Ali. I seen a post on the other page about a kid having a busted lip. A kid. What? So the Texas boy, Robyn Smith, to Allison. The necklace of Noah's is in OHP's custody. I'm not sure about his underpants. What? Noah's underpants? Yeah. Kind of interesting that. We always talk about the shorts, but what about the underpants or the boxers or whatever type of stuff you're wearing underneath? What happened to them with Noah Presgrove? Was that ever cleared up? Does anyone know right now? Let that sink in. Robyn responds to Christy. We were told one of the Texas boys got a busted lip in the side-by-side wreck, but that was the only injury. So supposedly Noah was okay. So this response by Robyn Smith is consistent with what she was saying on Reddit as well, which is a good thing in a way. Dale to Robyn. Wonder if the OHP has talked to him about Noah's injuries. Ali, not sure if you saw my DM. NN is interested. I think NN might mean News Nation. That must have been earlier on then. So, how many people believe in what Robyn says here from what she was told, that there was a Texas boy busted lip and no one else was injured? And yet Kaden Pressy is the one saying, well, from the photo what I saw or the video, that Noah clearly was injured. Now, how could the Texas boy get a busted lip? Well, maybe impact with something about, or maybe more likely biting down on your own lip. I mean, it can happen in any activity, whether it's intentional or not. A jolt, a sudden shock force, clenching down on your teeth, impact, jolting the body, the mouth, biting on your lip, upper or lower. More so it tends to be the lower lip. You can see it in professional wrestling. You can see it in mixed martial arts in a way, and in other sports, and anything where there's like movement and there could be some kind of impact and speed and force. Biting down on your lip hard enough and maybe fast enough sometimes can take a chunk out, and other times can create a slight cut, and your lip can bleed to varying levels. A busted lip, biting one's lip. Intentional or not, and in this case, not exactly intentional. Would it have been from the impact of when rolling, hitting the ground? I wonder. And how was this Texas boy seated in the side-by-side? Were they sat down? Were they hanging onto the side of the vehicle? It is about 5 to 6 passengers, and then Noah Presgrove. How many seats does a side-by-side have? Would any people be hanging on the side of the vehicle? Would that have created an imbalance and eventually led to momentum shift of it rolling over? It does make you think. So we've got that one. Now, this is what Elisha Lee had to say previously. I don't know how old ago this was. I know it says 4 days ago, but the screenshot could have been taken back then, earlier and more fresh at the time of when it was actually posted. But at least from where it's from is Noah Presgrove's Army, possibly by Jody Barth. And I'm sure Jody Barth is the one that appeared on Partners in True Crime. Dina Roche. This video was at around 11 p.m. Did the Wheeler wreck happen after this? Sorry, I can't remember. Elisha Lee, no, before dark. What are we talking about this video? Did the Willet wreck happen after this? I don't quite get it. Let's just see. Elisha, and it wasn't a wreck. They ramped a culvert, went up on 2 wheels, and it landed back on 4 wheels. Wait, is this culvert ramping one? Has this got anything to do with the evening time when Kaden Pressy made a reference to it in Partners in True Crime, post driving about in the field and shooting animals, when it was Kaden, Noah, maybe Millan, Mikey, Jack, them lot. They were coming back home and jumped and landed, and it was quite a rush. Is that the same thing? Anyway, Elisha. The video of the wreck, the side-by-side rollover, that was after dark, where Kaden was shown a screenshot of with a timestamp. And what Elisha Lee says here is at least consistent with what Kaden Pressy has told us in one of his interviews. Kaden was not present for it. Yeah, because he was asleep. Noah Presgrove was shown smiling with a busted lip. Okay. So you got Robyn Smith saying, from what we've been told... So I'll just put one thing across. Kaden Pressy was shown a screenshot of the event. Shown a screenshot from a video of the side-by-side rollover. Did Robyn Smith, the victim's family, get the same privilege? Because one thing what I've picked up on, how come it's Kaden Pressy always receiving the material, the intel, the evidence from highway footage of tampering of Noah's body, which is quite sensitive, to the side-by-side rollover After Effects with a timestamp attached, and maybe some of the bits and bobs in between? Does or did Robyn ever get the same opportunities as Kaden Pressy did? Kaden Pressy, yes, is a party goer, but Robyn Smith is one of the victim's family members, and they should have access as well to know about, one of their family members, their Noah Presgrove, what happened to him. This is weird, is it not? Robyn Smith referring to Texas boy got a busted lip, only one injured. And Elisha here is saying the one that got a busted lip was actually Noah Presgrove. And Kaden Pressy in the interview said Noah had a busted or a bloodied nose. Is it easy to get mixed up between your lip, your nose, and where the blood might be at? Maybe, maybe not. But based off the discrepancies of more serious things, I'm going to acknowledge this as well for that consistency. I don't care if people say, oh, we're going a bit too far. We're being realistic. Elisha is speaking on behalf of Kaden Pressy, and Elisha says Noah had a busted lip. Kaden Pressy himself says Noah had a bloodied nose. Was it one or the other? Was it both? And how come Robyn says no mention of Noah, it was just a Texas boy then that was injured? How many people were truly injured? To what extent? It doesn't have to be a death situation. It might not be that severe, but it's nice to know the condition of the people based on what happened next, the mindsets, the mentality. From how it's worded here and what we've heard elsewhere, that they were laughing or joking, but to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me, because something like that, even though it kind of went wrong and it was a bit of a fail, people may laugh it off and think, whoa, that was cool, that was close, that was wild. Just how people may act. And if they've been drinking, they might think it's great. They might think it's fun, exciting, all different types of reactions. Just like how some people were laughing when Noah was getting slapped by Shandy. In other situations in life with other people, strangers or not, they might not take it the same way. Everybody reacts differently. These are just how they were at the time. Not a big deal, but it's still good to know the atmosphere following on to the shower situation and who was present, who needed it most. Was there an urgency or not? No harm in clearing up as we go along, and we're already seeing discrepancies of how Noah was injured, or was he actually in the first place, and where was he injured? Elisha says Jack Newton was in the background of the video. Screenshot. Well, Kaden Pressy never mentioned that. Kaden Pressy never mentioned anything about Jack Newton being in the background of the video/screenshot, which was shown, which he then passed on in terms of talking about it in one of the interviews. Does anyone else remember it? Does anyone else remember Kaden Pressy saying Jack Newton was in the background? I don't remember ever seeing that. I don't think Kaden ever worded it like that. So what's Elisha doing here, wording it like this? Is Elisha putting words into Kaden's mouth, or is Elisha revealing more of the truth which Kaden didn't want to say? Because, it put Jack Newton in a tricky situation if that's the case, because supposedly he was supposed to be asleep, right? Let me know what you think in the chat. Elisha says, those were the only people in the images shown to Kaden. Someone was taking the video, don't know who. And was that someone taking the video the same person that showed it, as for the screenshot, to Kaden at a later point? I wonder. And then there's another one there. Kaden's videos are probably just to do with the party. So this one's one that stands out the most, in my opinion. Moving on. We got a couple of comments or so by Stevie Howard. I don't know if they're all in the same exact order, but I'm just going to read it out anyway, and we'll zoom in for this because it is quite long. Okay? Stevie says, I will say this. Kaden Pressy and his mama Elisha have both stated numerous times he went in and went to sleep after Georgia left. Right, well, at least from what we've heard of, Kaden Pressy said he went to sleep for the first time Monday morning at around 2 a.m. Georgia Breeley supposedly left around 2 or just before. So that kind of ties in line there, I guess. But Stevie Howard says that Kaden went to sleep right after that. He said himself Noah was in the dining room when he came in and was going to take a shower, and he went to sleep. Did y'all catch that? Personally, I don't remember that. I remember in one of the Partisan True Crime interviews, probably the earlier one, where Kaden Pressy reiterated saying Sunday night he overheard Noah Presgrove inquiring about having a shower. That's all I remember hearing. Kaden Pressy didn't say anything about seeing Noah go for a shower or walking off to the bathroom as in Monday, as in 2 a.m. onwards. So there's that. Interesting, but Noah went to sleep right after that. He said himself Noah was in the dining room when he came in and was going to take a shower and went to sleep. If that's what Kaden had said, Stevie Howard, when and where did Kaden Pressy mention and state that? Was it in an interview? Was it a Facebook post? Do we have any screenshots to back it up? Because it does sound rather important now, because it sounds like it's in a different order compared to what we know it as. I was under the impression that at least at around 2:40 onwards is probably when the side-by-side possibly occurred at, and the shower, and then anything else in between, and the sleeping tobacco. Anyway, Stevie Howard says, was going to take a shower. So I'd say it's pretty safe bet to say that he was asleep whilst Noah took one. Right, yeah, I would say so. That's why I said I believed him to be telling the truth. Last time he saw Noah Presgrove before he went to sleep, he was wearing black shorts. But I'm telling you, I know for a fact that Noah took that shower and then put on those white shorts. Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I don't put back on dirty clothes I take off before a shower. Now, you want to know how I know this to be an absolute fact, and highlighted in yellow? That would be because we have the Snapchat post of Noah eating ramen noodles and yogurt in those white shorts. This is extremely important. Something like this, when there is the right time, this particular snap needs to be released. But what I will say is, and I'm just talking in general here because we know how the evolutionary rat race goes. If you want consistency, depth, and control, you want it to be under control, you want that balance, be careful who you share that snap with. I'm talking about outsiders, I'm talking about other pages. You post or share it over there too soon, Some people could abuse, overuse, manipulate, and cover it and execute it terribly. But if you want it under control, all hair. Absolutely. Something like this would be a turning point. I made my references about cause of death, or more so, was the foul play or not? And the white short situation would go a long way. And whilst there might be a blurry clip here and there, which really doesn't show much at all, how it's worded here implies it's much clearer in sight. And if it's true that Noah was wearing white shorts and there's video proof of it with an appropriate timestamp, because of it being Snapchat, just like the Mikey Lair post, there's a good chance it will be able to reinforce something and debunk another thing. So this will be a big turning point if it is ever released, right? I know there's people in the background. I know there's people lurking right now in my video, throwing the toys out the pram to some extent. It's just one of those matters of simmer down and we'll see what happens next. But let's continue reading. Stevie says, Noah's hair is wet after that shower, and they're the last Snapchats of that night, and that Noah would be ever seen in again. The autopsy never says what content was in his stomach. Oh, okay. I'd be curious if they told the family, but I know what time those Snapchats were, and I know that Kaden Pressy was asleep in another snap of everyone in the living room at the same time whilst he's eating. So he was right about that. His ass was fast asleep. Okay. This is all very interesting. I'm not getting in a passing contest with a kid, not when I know that he's full of shit or even just mistaken. I also know he must have had more to drink than he lets on. What, as in Kaden Pressy? He's had more to drink than what he lets on. As in what time? Kaden Pressy had said by 10:30 p.m. Sunday night onwards, he sobered up because Georgia was there. But as we know, at a later point, at around, 1:40 in the morning or so, Kaden Pressy had, in a way, abandoned Georgia and doing his own thing or whatever, may have been drinking, who knows, and went against Elisha's wishes of, you need to follow Georgia about at all times, and Kaden didn't. That's what sparked Elisha calling Melissa and heading down to the highway, etc. But we've heard the theme about the contents of Noah's stomach not being mentioned, any of it additional details hidden in the autopsy, but elsewhere. I'll be careful with my wording because I know it might trigger some people. So that's just part of it. If we move on to the next slide, if it is a continuation, I'm not too sure, just because of the flow of it. Before a shower. Now, you want to know how I know this to be an absolute fact? That would be because we have the snaps. Okay, wet hair, yep. That's okay. I'm not getting in passing contests with a kid, not when I know that he's full of shit or even mistaken. I also know he must have had more to drink than he lets. Yep. He stated he doesn't remember a UTV wreck, but there are snaps of him helping flip the son of a bitch back right side up. Lol. I also know for a fact that, yes, my sister, Sarah Long, did wake him up. He looked for his shoe then too. And my brother-in-law was at their lake house and nowhere around. Take in mind, it's interesting the mention of Sarah Long being the one to wake Kaden Pressy up at the party house at what time though? 7, 8 in the morning? Maybe, I'm not too sure. Only because, as we've heard from what Kaden Pressy had said, by 7 in the morning, Kaden had already left the party house. That after, if we're referring back to earlier on in the day, that after 5:30, when told to leave the highway, the scene, returning back to the party house, Kaden Pressy did not go back to sleep because he just couldn't. That would be understandable, yes. So then from 5:30 onwards to 7, Kaden didn't go back to sleep. by the time of 7 and by the time of when Sarah Long supposedly came round, Kaden had already left. Based on what Kaden says. But what's said here is different. Now, the mention of must have had more to drink because he stated he didn't remember the side-by-side wreck. That's a bit weird. At what time did Kaden Pressy say, I don't remember the side-by-side wreck, I don't remember the side-by-side rollover? Was that said early on by Kaden Pressy? Because if it's said earlier on, that's when you've got more of a fresh memory. But at a later point in time in the Partners in True Crime interview or somewhere where Kaden in an interview had stated that he was shown, it might have been in the private police interview, apologies if I do get it mixed up, but it's in one of the interviews where Kaden Pressy made the reference of a person at a later point, which could mean a day later, a week later, months later, who knows? A person showed a screenshot or a photo from a video to Kaden about the after effects of the rollover. So Kaden Pressy didn't witness it firsthand, but he's seen hard evidence to show that it did happen and that Kaden eventually knew about it. Hence why he mentioned it in one of the interviews. But what Stevie Howard says here is that Kaden didn't even know the side-by-side happened. Now, at what point did these things occur in? If in the early days when Kaden wasn't shown the photo or the snap or a screenshot of the rollover, he would have been completely oblivious and not knowing of it. And then at a later point, then he was finally shown the evidence. And then at a later point, finally did an interview, June 2024, with police and said, this is the deal. Then it makes sense in that order. But what order did it really happen in? Because if it's not in that order, well then, I don't know why Kaden would be saying, well, I don't know about this, and I don't know about that. It's kind of the equivalent of Kaden saying in the Partners in True Crime Part 2 interview of, I've never seen these girls before, I've never been to this house before. But then in the Part 1 interview, by the same host and people, by saying, oh yeah, these people, long-time friends, we met in the car park, we hung out in the past and was drinking. Either you know the people, or you don't. Can't be both ways. Just like with maybe this situation of either the side-by-side did happen or it didn't. Did you know about it or did you not? Maybe you didn't know about it in the early days, but at what time did that person show you the evidence that it did happen? Because if you were shown evidence that it did happen early on and then later you said, I don't know if it happened or not, why would you say that if you've been shown evidence? It depends what order, but it's a bit of a messy situation. And the mention by Stevie Howard saying that there was a Snapchat post of Kaden Pressy flipping the, helping flip over the side-by-side. Would Kaden Pressy be even able to do that with his knee brace and recovery from surgery? It wouldn't seem practical whatsoever. Would he actually really do that, and why? Now, we've seen the other people counter it and say it's not possible, it's a load of BS, but if there are snaps out there and hard evidence, well then, it's a matter of wait and see if it gets released. Because it would go a long way if it was true and turn many things upside down. But at this moment in time, it's just words, and that's not meant in a rude way, just realistic. Steve says, thing is, the only story that keeps changing is this one. One eyewitness account given and 10 others disregarded by y'all. I used to think he was just still drunk and just confused. But I'm starting to worry that he may need a reason for that photo of his to ping at 5:15 in the morning. Because Jack Newton's did not at that time. He said Jack told him to leave, so Jack's would have been there, right? It never pinged at 5:15 there, not even close. Right. I think we continue on here. Okay, 5:15 then. LE already told something 2 phones did. Told us one. I don't know who the other one is, but this makes me wonder why LE kept asking about Kaden Pressy last time in. Asked about him and Texas boys. We know Jack Newton's checked out. We know Kaden Pressy didn't turn his phone over for... Oh, Kaden Pressy didn't turn his phone for over a month later. What, as in it took over a month until Kaden actually handed his phone in. Well, that's a problem. Kaden Pressy said it took over a month or so to actually get an interview with police. And with that time onwards, constantly trying to hand the phone over and offer it, and the police never wanted it. And then Elisha, in the Partners in True Crime Part 2 Never Released interview, some months ago now, in 2024, around June or so, or July later on, ended up saying that, yeah, Kaden eventually got his phone handed in and police actually took a look at it, did a phone analysis, data analysis, and it reinforced Kaden's timeline of 5:15 onwards, and it's all true. And then just a few weeks ago, Kaden Pressy said the police never took my phone. And Stevie Howard, in the past, had said it took a while until the phone was supposedly handed over. And yet Kaden is saying, in recent time, it never was handed over. So who's telling the truth then? What a mess. Stevie says, Justin, I'm guessing Justin Roy, as much as we don't get along, called them out for it 6 months ago. Also, no, he told several that he had to work in the morning. That's why he was going to bed. Who? What, Jack? I saw where his mama posted he had to be up at 4 a.m. for work. His mama. Wait, are we talking about Kaden Pressy still? Was Kaden Pressy working at the time? Had a job at the time? Can anyone confirm that? He had to be up at 4 a.m. for work? I don't know. I don't know if this is about Kaden or somebody else. It's confusing. Also, no one of this came about till after he had a falling out with all the other boys. Now, all of a sudden, his statement is different, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I see his mom, I guess Elisha's story, come on here and change. Times, couch, chair, how bright it was outside. First it was barely daylight, now pitch black. In brackets, I was the one who told her to look and see what time it would have been at that time, lol. Who told him to leave? Who was there? Didn't know she was coming, but waited up till they picked her up. It's constant. See, everyone goes through everything we say, but has been very negligent on others. I, however, have paid close attention. Calling my sister Sarah Long a liar is pretty stupid, though, because Ellie knows she was there. They took a statement, as does the firefighter and other parents there, whilst they woke up those boys, whom all have no reason to lie. Well, if parents and anyone else of a much older age had to come round to the house to wake the party goers up, where was Jack Newton then? Because this whole mention of Jack Newton at 6 a.m. onwards or around that went to the party house and woke everybody up amidst the news of Noah's death. But if Sarah Long didn't get there till what? Was it 7 or 8 a.m. onwards? Then that would mean for all those other hours, the people at the party had no clue about it, but Jack did. So what was Jack doing then? I don't get that part. That creates a big hole. Anyway, as does the firefighter, whom all have no reason to lie. Sorry, be confused by being under the influence of alcohol. So here is a little piece of advice to Kaden Pressy and Elisha both. I do what everyone else keeps telling me to do and just be quiet, because you're not helping yourself. And to be honest, that's actually true advice, because the more Kaden and Elisha have spoken out, or more so Kaden, it's led to possible slip-ups, or it's led to more material for the general public to critique, to make observations, and much more. The other people have kept quieter, meaning there's not been as much room for criticism. I mean, has Stevie Howard been quiet though? Maybe not at the time. Moving on. Okay, as does, yeah. Right, because you're not helping yourself. You may be convincing the Facebook police, but they aren't the ones you ought to be worried about, I wouldn't think. Zachary Wright, what you had asked Jack about. Whatever that means. Okay. Zoom in. And then there is another one here. It might be in the wrong order, but I'll just acknowledge it anyway whilst we're present. Pretty clear of any harm, but I don't know. The next video is of his scraped shoulder and him laughing and another kid showing his lip that busted. Barely bled. Barely bled, yet Kaden Pressy worded it as Noah had a bloodied nose. Flipped it down like on the inside of his mouth, bottom lip, and the laughing, and then commenced to flip the Can-Am back over. Again, I do not know, and I'm not no detective, and I can only post on what I saw per snap or text, or my kids told me as well as others. And yes, all of their stories are very cohesive with one another, especially considering some were drinking, and we know that even at parties, groups break off and hang out in other groups and smaller groups. I get that, so they're not going to see everything. Don't isn't absurd that so-and-so didn't know what so-and-so was doing. Oh boy. I think for the most part, everyone there had an account for anyone in question, but you may have asked Peter. Who's Peter? Peter Pan? And if he knew where Paul was, and he didn't, because he was inside with Pam, kind of thing. Oh, it's a scenario. It's an example, I think. Oh no, not Pam again. Anyway, there were not 40 kids there, though. Each kid made a list, and most have 20 to 25 kids on there for that entire day. What, the entire day of Sunday? 20 to 25? That's still a lot of people, because in terms of the footage and photos, what we've seen, I've not counted 20 to 25 people. I know they're not all going to be in the same room at once, but from the different angles and inside and out, I see like familiar faces. If you did like, if we looked at all the Snapchat photos or any material videos and photos, etc., you counted all the people up over the course of days, how many would you total? Because not everybody would have been in shot of the camera. You don't really see much of certain party goers, do you? Even if there are familiar names and faces. The mention of, who was the person that started it off by stating there were 40 party goers at the house on one of the days? Who actually started that off? Did Justin Roy? Was it somebody else? I know Kaden Pressy at one point in the interview, more so the police interview, said Friday and Saturday there were 40 people at the party. But in the Parts in True Crime interview, Kaden Pressy said no, it was actually Sunday when it all heated up. Sunday night when all the others came on down, and Avery Combs' older friends and strangers came on down, strangers to other partygoers and maybe like some of the Texas boys and whatnot, totaling 40. So Kaden says, Friday, Saturday, 40 people. But then in the public interview, it's, no, it was actually Sunday. What? And Stevie Howard says there was never 40. So was the number 40 yet another means of exaggeration? Was it yet another tactic within this case, just like the whole age range thing? That is supposedly, you got someone like Georgia that is claimed to be 15 at the time, but others are saying she was actually 16 and a half or close to 17 years old at the time. That, it was actually done as shock value to penetrate through people's minds and say, this is actually much worse than what you think, but in reality, it's not as bad as what you think. But for the sake of the social hosting laws and pushing that for justice, we'll reduce the age down to make it seem much worse. We'll increase the number of people that were at the party, even though there wasn't that many, to make it seem even more reckless and more worse and more chances of more firearms being present. It makes you think, doesn't it? And I know this is away from the side-by-side rollover, but I just wanted to add in these bits and bobs. Moving back to the side-by-side, this is what Stephanie Millan had to say. Stephanie Millan, sister to Jasmine Millan. Stephanie being at the party itself. This is just a portion of it. On Snapchat with a random person communicating with Stephanie. This person called me could be the same person that was communicating with Colton Newton, Jack's older brother, at a later point in time. And it could all link back to what others have said. It's Vanessa Salazar behind all of this. Oh, goodness gracious. Where's Scooby-Doo? Where's Scooby-Doo, Joyce Bergow? Let's zoom in and read bits of it. Stephanie said Noah Presgrove walked off to clear his head and never came back. Everything else about the story will be released to the news tomorrow. And was it? Who knows? Because look where we are till this day. I'm not supposed to say anything else. Right. And me says, so he didn't take off on a side-by-side with someone else? And Stephanie says, no. Earlier that night, he was. And Noah flipped it. But then after that, he was just hanging out at the house. Like he turned it on its side, but they flipped it back on its wheels. No big deal, supposedly. And me says, okay, I guess the story about him having beef with someone is true since he walked away and was mad. Stephanie says, no, we don't know why he got mad. No one had any beef. Really? No one had any beef? And yet we've heard of the argument Saturday past midnight between Noah and Jack, arguing, girl trouble. And then maybe another argument on Monday, who knows. That Sunday night at some point, possibly with Mikey Lair and Noah Presgrove biting the finger, getting fish hooked. Whether that really did happen or not, as some say in the community. Little bits of tension here and there, but not the complete end of the world. The side-by-side rollover, how it's mentioned by Stephanie, doesn't really highlight any injuries. That he was just simply hanging out at the house like nothing happened. What Stephanie says here so casually actually ties more in line with the 2:40 timestamp, and then 2 minutes later, Kaden woken up by Elisha and noticing that Noah's casually inside the house with Jack and with Jasmine. Oh, like nothing happened. Weird, isn't it? And once again, just to highlight, Stephanie Millan has been one of the quietest individuals in this case. I'm just pointing that out as an observation. And furthermore, more so, I'm just surprised. You know, the way people online and on Facebook, how they like zone in with certain people. You know, people zoned in, shark-infested waters, circling around Jasmine Millan and that Snapchat post about Noah missing, going all in on it, questioning Jasmine Millan, really pushing it. And yet no one, or not many, really thought to question Stephanie Millan, the sister, who was there, but goes under the radar. In which, when this person called me was communicating with Stephanie Millan, later followed up on Facebook with a messenger response by Colton Newton, of all people, saying, you better back off from Stephanie Millan, because if you don't, and you don't go through me, you go through her again, I'll come and get you. Wow, what a threat. Is it necessary? How did Colton find out about it? Did Stephanie Millan communicate with Colton? What's the connection between Colton and Stephanie? Or at least at the time, just friends or more? Who knows? But weird behaviour, defensiveness at times. And the last one here by Carter Combs. Someone asking, can I just actually, do you think Noah was showered, or is that untrue? I understand if you didn't want to answer that. I fully support you. It is just wisdom I get asked a lot, and if yes, was he showered? Either way, I believe you. Thanks for staying strong. You inspire me and others to have dealt with similar things. Can I just ask something? Do you know this screenshot that was taken? Carter's on the left, but the person's point of view that's communicating with Carter highlighted in the pink purpley box. Who was asking the question? Who is this person communicating with Carter? I only ask it because how it's worded here sounds rather stable and positive. And if it does link to a certain someone, I'm thinking, whoa, things have changed with time, haven't they? Anyway, this was Friday at 2:22 in the morning, but no month, no year given, but obviously 2024, if not earlier. He was showered. Noah was showered after he got in a little side-by-side wreck. So one thing to another, moving about. A bit of urgency, maybe. And if you knew Noah Presgrove, he hated being dirty before bed. And he couldn't really stand because he was drunk. So me, Carter Combs, and Jasmine Millan, helped him, Noah. But it's not like what people are making it out to be. Nothing dodgy. We kind of just stood there and helped him stand so he didn't fall or anything. Okay, well, Noah's drunk at the time. May or may not be a bit dazed from the rollover or shook up. No harm in helping him up so he doesn't fall over. That seems somewhat innocent. Then Carter says, also, he wasn't the only one who got in the shower. One of his best buddies got in with him, and they were laughing together. Now, who is Noah's best buddy? Well, it can't be Jack Newton, because Jack Newton did not attend the shower. Either Jack was asleep or doing something else. Some have said Brylan Sweat was the one that jumped on in. Maybe some others have said it might have been a Texas boy, but who knows? Will that ever be cleared up? Time may tell. Hopefully those screenshots was able to put into perspective better for you. Be sure to leave a comment down below under the video and let me know out of those screenshots what you saw, the responses by the likes of Robyn Smith, Elisha, Stephanie, Stevie Howard and anybody else in between. Did any stand out to you, as in you've never seen them before, or have you seen them? There's a handful of them which I've not seen before, and it's good to do a collective video now to merge them all together so that in the future I can always go back over it and locate it more easier than other stuff in the past, which was just a random dump of screenshots. Because I know in the past, other true crime channels, well, some have called it like a photo dump, a screenshot dump, 6, 7, 8 hour live stream of post and Facebook post all over the place, all into one. How are you supposed to keep track and monitor it all? I mean, yeah, some people may have a few hundred screenshots, and supposedly Michael Facecaz is leading the competition with the most. Ooh, was it like 1,000 or something? Who knows? It's okay having lots of screenshots as long as the context is there, as in who said the message or the post, where it was from, and maybe a time, a date, stamp, and yeah, it goes a long way. But also furthermore, how it's posted and when, and is it all in one go? Is it spread out? Sometimes it's good to spread it out. Other times, posting it all in one go, it's hard to find it all or find specific pieces, whereas this will be a lot easier. As a heads up then, there will probably be other party goers and other key people that have described the side-by-side rollover in other ways, and maybe injuries sustained to Noah or other people too. And if that needs to be done as a follow-up video, another collection of screenshots, then I can do so. How I title this video, I can say tales or stories from this person's name, that person's name, and that analysis. So it's clean, it's clear, and it's findable with keywords. So I can always do a follow-up video if need be. Hopefully you found this interesting up to now. We are going to transition on to something a bit different now, and I'm going to add a disclaimer because one, I'm a very good boy, and two, just to be safe, okay? And then we'll see if anyone else can complain, because I can't really. And this is in regard to something that happened or supposedly went down last night, and I don't know if many people saw it or not. Some people's eyes widened. Mine did as well, because I wasn't expecting to see it. I wasn't expecting to see a particular word mentioned from a particular person in response to me. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over it right now, look at the post. It's in relation to the Noah Presgrove case and the communities. Let's make that clear. But the context behind it is a little bit questionable. So let me show you the screenshot. We'll check the definition and branch off from there. Be sure not to go anywhere. So what you're looking at on screen right now is from Reddit and what we acknowledged last night. Human in waiting. And this is basically Jan Fiorillo. They made themselves very clear as they were talking about all about themselves and critiquing me as well, and providing screenshots to say that, hey, here's proof that Warlike Raf is deleting my comments. Once they were here and now no longer, but I cleared it up by saying that it was down to YouTube, and that's the case. It's happened to me, it's happened to others, and even other creators and witnesses have said the same thing. But what stood out to me in one of the other comments within the thread and post is what's highlighted with the red line, that just continued to drift into complete disrespect, now defamation. Warlike Raf, he can hardly make a video without dogging me at least once. So I, Warlike Raf, have been accused of dogging Jan Fiorillo. Now, for some people, it didn't seem to bat an eyelid, because I was looking in the chat last night and I just didn't really see many reactions, and I was a bit surprised. But I know what Jan Fiorillo was getting at, but the wrong word was used. What Jan was supposed to say, likely, and we'll zoom in there just so you can see it clearly, he can hardly make a video without dogging me. The definition of dogged, spelt differently to what Jan said, means having or showing the tenacity, grim persistence. Example, success required dogged determination. That is what Jan was trying to get at. That my persistence in making videos about her, mentioning her name in the thumbnail, etc. But does that say dogged? No, it says dogging. And when we look at the bloody definition of dogging, it means the practice of watching or engaging in exhibitionist sexual activity in a public place. So supposedly, warlike Wrath is engaging with sexual activity in public places, and unfortunately Jan Fiorillo is present as well. Bloody hell. What's going on with Jan Fiorillo right there? Look, there's the evidence, how it's worded. Calling about defamation and slanderous claims. You're outright calling me some kind of exhibitionist. What do you expect me to do in public? But obviously, when someone like that with the long paragraphs and comments are very passionate and they believe in what they say and they do their research, I think it's only time, it's only right that I do research as well. So let's look into the stats and the facts of dogging. So the article in question is by Metro. The title reads, Public Sex and Voyeurism. Why do people go dogging? And this is by Harriet Williamson, published July 12, 2018. So obviously some people may be past their sell-by date by now when reading this. But nevertheless, it reads, as British an institution as fish and chips, or the Queen's corgi's habits, dogging is the act of public sex in a secluded or semi-secluded location, where those engaging in it allow others to watch them and may encourage viewers to join in. Oh, is that so? Oh yeah, man, here comes the statistics. You better make notes right now. Brits love a quickie in public, with 43% of us owning up to public sex. Sex in cars is nearly as popular as alfresco loving, as 49% of people in a new survey admit to getting it on in an automobile. Only laws on speed limits are more regularly broken than those relating to public fornication. But besides breaking speed limits, how many people are going to be breaking the back car of the seat, man, as it reclines back? How many people are going to break the gear stick and the shift? Anyone is shifting the stick in the Fiat? I'm sure someone is. I know who they are. But moving on. The term dogging supposedly comes from men telling their wives they were going to walk the dog and then either heading to the pub or going to see if they could find couples having sex and watch them. It doesn't refer to the woman involved in dogging scenarios in a derogatory way. Dogging has links to voyeurism, exhibitionism, swinging, cuck holding, and stag or vixen sex, where men and women enjoy seeing their partner having sex with another person. It usually occurs in outdoor parking areas, woodland spots where there's a lot of bushes, quiet lanes. Quiet lanes, is that so? And public parks after dark, when you cannot see anything but you can feel everything. When it's unlikely that others will be around, you can get involved as a couple and engage in sex in front of a live audience. Swap partners if you want with another couple, or have it off with singles who have come to enjoy the show. Some people who go dogging respond to social media alerts or post on sites specifically dedicated to activity. I wonder if there are any Facebook groups as well. So they know exactly where and when couples or curious singles are planning to be at a specific location. There's a bit more planning and intent than just having a drunken one of those down the side of a pub because you're both too horny to make it home. Oh, goodness gracious. We don't know how many people in the UK are currently active in the dogging scene, but communities of dedicated doggers certainly exist online, and information on the best dogging sites in your city or country or county is just a simple Google search away. There's not one specific law that bans dogging, but if you get caught, you could be prosecuted for public indecency, indecent behaviour, disorderly conduct, encouraging. Of course, you'll find yourself on a register. And there's a person driving away somewhere. We don't know who they are. In order to learn more about dogging and why people like it, I logged on to an adults-only dogging site that offers handy tips. As handy as Andy, I wonder. Be doggers such as try to arrive a few minutes early for a meet. No one likes to wait. Yes, you cannot be leaving somebody waiting. They're going to get cold. If it's cold, poor nipples, they'll drop off. We don't want that. We don't want hypothermia. But whilst people may not want to wait, you want to finish early? How could you? Oh, we've got Ian from Gloucestershire. Who's bloody Ian? Was kind enough to tell me why he enjoys going dogging. He said, it's the excitement of being watched while still getting pleasure, knowing other men and women will be stroking themselves whilst they watch you adds to the fun. Really? Oh, we got Amir from Twickenham said that his best dogging experience was with a couple he met on Craigslist. They were looking for a man to have sex with the husband's blindfolded wife. Whilst he watched, we decided to meet and did the deed in his parked car under a bridge. It was a fun experience. I felt very adventurous. Oh, is that so? Blindfolded. Indeed. But what was used as the blindfold? I wonder. Was it some cloth? Was it some material? Was it scented? I don't think we'll ever find out, and that's a great shame. We got Brian, told me that he first became interested in dogging when he realised that his long-term relationship was getting stale. Oh no, not stale as the bread. Gosh, what a disaster. He said, my relationship ended, and after that, I was able to explore what I really wanted sexually. Not just a quick one at home twice a week. Twice a week? Is that all? Get a grip of yourself, man. And then it mentions, I went to some shops in Glasgow. I guess you could call them sex shops. I came across a contact magazine through it. I started making contact with the couples. Given my previous relationship, I decided I wasn't going to be tied down. Oh, you're not getting tied down, but is somebody else? Or are they getting pinned down? Many questions, not enough answers. I'm a bit petty right now. I met a few couples and the subject of meeting at dogging sites came up. Okay. We've got a nice little alliteration, a little visual abstract art here. You could interpret this in many ways. Basically, to summarise it, there is a female supposedly bent over, and there is an individual laying and resting their hands upon a bakery of buns. Is it a fresh batch or not? I don't know. I'm not a food critique. But the way that person is grabbing, their hands possibly trembling, but are they holding on tight enough? We will never know. It really shows the abstract art in trying to understand the aims, the methods, the tension and the struggles in trying to keep a hold of everything. Because when something like this happens, there'll be the odd person in chat that can attest to it, that if you're built differently and if you're a baddie, can somebody handle that baddie? I don't think so, man. But below it says, I guess I was just very horny at the time, single, looking for fun. It was also very exciting and almost a nervous experience in terms of watching, participating and making sure we didn't get caught. On the etiquette of dogging, Rory the lion, says, you can't just walk up to a car and look in. That's too much like stalking. Oh my God, you say that, Rory? Yeah. You have to watch the cars as they come and go. See if the same cars are coming and going. Who's inside? Wait, inside of the car or who's inside of the person? What? And whether or not they look at you. Oh, why? Are they looking deep into your eyes as it happens? They looking away in disgust, their eyes closed, trying to enhance the experience? Oh, here we go. We've got some big tips here. A definite sign is light flashing. If you're behind a car for some reason, and then the brake lights flash, that generally means they want to be watched or joined. If you're in front, they will flash their headlights at you. I don't care about flashing headlights. The real question is, what else is going to be flashed? A flashlight? Yeah, better be high quality solar panel flashlight, which can pierce through the woodland and detect any animals trying to, stalk the people. There have been times when a woman has gotten out her car topless and beckoned guys over, but that doesn't happen very often. Is it because it's very rare? During dogging, you may get invited to watch through a car window. And generally, this is when guys just jerk off. There are other occasions when you might touch the couple, play with her and him. But it really depends on what you're looking for. And that can apply to you watching right now. What do you want? What do you desire? Why are you here? What do you really want? Some dogging lovers prefer not to make contact with others who share their interest on dedicated sites or social media. Metro, that he refers to cruise by dogging sites on the off chance that he'll see something. I think there are a lot of myths about dogging, and if you're into watching, you have to be pretty lucky to see anything unless it's a pre-arranged meet. For me, pure chance. I once watched a young woman sucking off a much older guy in a country car park. He didn't seem bothered that I was watching and even lifted her skirt so I could see her arse. Another time, a guy in a van. The question is, did the guy in the van know Jan? Was doing a woman in the front seat. But they were finishing just as I got there. Oh no, such a shame. You were too late. She then got out to go to her car, lifted up her top and flashed her breast. Is that so? In the front seat of a van. Oh my God, how incompetent and amateur can you get? In a van, in the front seat. You got the whole back end of the van where there's so much space and size and you thought, yeah, we'll just try and fit in the front seat, honking the horn on the wheel. My God, you need to get a grip of yourself. You need to practice much more. Use that spaceman. I'm really disappointed in this. I'm going to be honest with you. Anyway. It's a whole lot easier if you are the ones putting on the show. I took my partner, who is gorgeous. Oh yes, such a gorgeous partner, along to a car park. We had no trouble attracting a bunch of guys. In that situation, I could definitely identify with the guys outside the car. I would have been doing the same as they were if my partner was open and exposed in the car. When you say open, what part of your partner was open? I can't blame them. Basically, if you're voyeuristic or an exhibitionist, you're gonna try dogging at some point. It's inevitable. Men seem the most willing to talk about their experiences of dogging, but women get involved too. I spoke to Erin a first time, one who's tried once. Is that so? I wonder if Erin is watching right now. amongst this video. Welcome to those watching in the background, lurking. I guess I've tried dogging because I like people watching me. I like having sex in public. Also, it feels exciting and risque to be doing it in a car. We drove to a couple of different car parks in the countryside, looking for one that had a few cars in it, but didn't have families in. Yes. The first one was really dead, empty. So we just had a bit of a snog and then moved on. The second one was in a secluded grassy area, and I immediately took my top off and started kissing my partner. We've got another visual image here, and this one really highlights the abstract nature of when you're up against the walls, or your back is against the wall, or in this case, your face is being suffocated by the presence of somebody else. What appears to be the case here is a load of unanswered questions. A woman with her hands as big as the guy's head, crushing the guy's head like a melon, pressed up against more melons. Is that so? It's rather hard to tell. Is the guy's face pressed against the breast, or is it being pressed against the floral section? The wishing well, the fountain of youth, the jewels, the forbidden fruit. The person's face seems rather empty, eyes focused like a viper, constricting the guy's head so they can no longer breathe, making the body rather limp. But are their bodies limp as well? I don't think so. I think that tells a different story. Join us next time as we find out more about this photo. But for now, we need to move on. Because Aaron continues to say, I was kneeling in the passenger seat, facing into the back of the car, whilst he lifted my skirt around my waist, pulled my knickers down to finger me. Really, how many fingers were used? That doesn't seem to be mentioned. I'm very disappointed. I didn't notice 3 men approached until they were standing right outside my window. The car was getting so steamed up with our activities that my partner lowered the windows a little so the men outside could get a better view. I gave him a blowjob. I let him rim at me in front of them. That basically means round the back end. I leaned right forward, put my head down and stuck my arse out so they could really see what was going on down there. That's very, very considerate. All the blokes outside were masturbating. It was so hot to be stroked over in broad daylight. The only slightly disquieting moment was when one guy tried to put his hand through the open window to touch me. But my partner told him firmly that touching wasn't allowed. He didn't try it again. What a naughty, naughty boy. I wasn't brave enough to get out the car, but maybe next time, if you're going to give dogging a try, remember never to engage in public when there's other people about, of course. And anything else we'd like to come across here? Metro's hottest newsletter with juicy stories and tips for spicing things up in the bedroom. Hands off, you can look, but you can't touch. Anyway, hopefully there was some valuable information there for some people, you know, making notes, doing research, getting those statistics in, of course, and taking it in context, not out of context. So, you know, has Warlight Ref been dogging left, right and centre? Well, to my knowledge, no, I wasn't aware of that. Seems like Jan Fiorillo knows more about me than I know about myself, supposedly. You can see how words can be misinterpreted when they themselves, where they use the words very incorrectly. Hence why we're here. So if you're still here and somewhat traumatized, treat it as a life lesson. But when you use the wrong words, instead of going through the front door, you'll end up going round the back door. Is that what you really want? Anyway, besides all of that, Warlike Ref is not engaging in stuff like that. Who do you think I am? And as for cars, front seat, passenger seat, or more so the back seat, am I going to be in that position? No. By the way, how big is that car of yours?